I'm one of these people that every time they get in front of an audience, no matter how small or large, I forget everything I'm supposed to say. So having had time to gather my thoughts, there are a few items of business that I have to go over and indeed want to go over. First, we have to, with a big round of applause, thank the library for hosting Helicon West. Yay! Thank Ibis for the coffee. And even though she isn't here, thank Star for being the founder of Helicon West. So we'll have a place to come and read. Okay, it is me, then Sarah, and then Amias.
Yes. Are you okay with the camera on?
Yes, that's fine. As I said last time, for those of you who are here, I've been kind of writing a little bit about my dad lately, and even though this is an older piece, since Father's Day was just last week, I thought I would read this one, so here we go. I hate funerals. Always have. Mom and Dad's generation, they love the things, or seem to anyway. Oh, there are always the tears, the exchange of sympathies, everything you'd expect. But phrases like, if it weren't for funerals, we'd never see each other at all, imply a certain level of enjoyment. Not fair, I know, but when you've attended as many funerals as I have, you can't help but be a little jaded. See, my parents are possessed of talent that's very much in demand for occasions like church meetings, firesides, and especially funerals, be they of family, friends, or distant acquaintances. Blessed with a beautiful singing voice and a talent for the piano, Mom is the entertainment. She can sing and, if necessary, play a vast repertoire of hymns on demand, including but not limited to Amazing Grace, Nearer My God to Thee, What a Friend We Have in Jesus, and of course, softly and tenderly, Jesus is Calling. Dad, on the other hand, is a gifted orator. He's been on the High Council since before I was born and thus has a great deal of speaking experience. His jokes are funny, his metaphors are always tying into the sermons. That alone sets him apart from the run-of-the-mill councilman. But those attributes do not, in and of themselves, account for his popularity. Dad has great intuition. He can always be counted on to relate that one funny tale, followed without fail by another story, guaranteed to miss the eyes of everyone in attendance, including, I'm sure, the deceased. But that's not it entirely either. No, for my money, it's Dad's mission experience that started him down this road. He served a 2-year mission in Depression-era Georgia, surrounded by holy rollers and evangelical tent revivals, a place where religion is in the blood and reverence is reviled as timidity, where if he wanted anyone to listen at all, he had to walk the walk. Dad is a dynamic speaker, his vocal pitch varied, his body language animated, and when the Spirit takes him, and it frequently does, he moves, speaks, and preaches from its influence. Don't misunderstand, we're not talking about speaking in tongues or rolling in the aisles, but pulpit-pounding, congregation-engaging interaction, you bet. At the end of a typical service, Mom and Dad will be mobbed, thanked, and invariably asked the question. That was so beautiful, someone will say. Will you sing/speak at my funeral? Of course they say yes. It's quite the honor after all, and for years that honor meant my sister Shirlene and I would be attending as well, ostensibly to pay our respects, but often as not, to support the cast. When adult had arrived, my sister and I finally felt strong enough to beg off. In truth, Mom and Dad's fan base was such that we weren't even missed. And we still went to the important funerals, those of family, close friends, people we'd met more than once. Which is how we ended up at Uncle Lyle's funeral. Lyle was our kind of people, good-hearted, if a bit on the irreverent side. Besides, anyone who could indulge a 7-decade love for unfiltered Lucky Strikes and make it to the ripe old age of 86 deserved one hell of a send-off. The family gossip mill was rife with rumors that day, the sons and daughters duking it out over inheritance. Compounding matters was a Mormon policy, namely that boys inactive for years weren't allowed to participate in the funeral. Strong opinions regarding that tidbit echoed through the old Meat Creek Ward House, where moments before the family prayer was held. The current ward bishop was out of his league. Thankfully, Uncle Lyle's bishop from years back had been asked to preside, and he was keeping the peace, albeit barely. This sad little Thursday was shaping into a soap opera to put Melrose Place to shame. For some inexplicable reason, the girls didn't ask Mom to sing, embarking instead upon a musical program of their own. Eldest daughter Lydia, once a violinist of some note, took to the stage to prove beyond doubt that the violin, while capable of producing the sweetest strains for the gifted and the dedicated, is in the hands of the hobbyist, the out of practice, the least forgiving of all instruments. Alas, Lydia fell into the latter category. The blending of notes most closely mirrored a toss-up between fingernails on a chalkboard and tortured cat. Her performance made worse by the occasional memory of competence, moments few though they were, when the right amount of bow and string came together to mock us with the realization of what should have been amazing grace. My sister and I grasped hands, though we dared not look at each other lest we dissolve into fits of hysterical laughter in the middle of our uncle's funeral. Cousin Lydia, ever the trooper, stopped in the middle, wiped her eyes, amazingly, began again. On and on it went, until finally, in a moment demonstrative of the adage that God indeed hears and answers prayers, the song was over, and the humiliated daughter fled to her seat. Dad, stoic as any Vulcan, rose from his seat and approached the pulpit. A single glance toward the family section wilted any hint of smile. "Thank you, Lydia, for that beautiful tribute to your father," he began, and Shirlene's grip nearly broke my hand. "Oh, how Lyle loved that song. I remember when you were just a little girl, your dad made sure that everyone visiting the house was treated to a recital. No matter what songs you played, he always had you close with that one. I can't think of a better way to honor him. Lyle was 16 years older than me. That's quite a span. He was off to the Army before I was out of short pants and also worked for the Forest Service and as a stevedore in Washington, so we didn't get back home very often. Every time he saw me, though, he always made me feel like I was the most important person in the world. Lyle would have..." Dad stopped and gazed back toward the back of the chapel, where the congregation turned, half expecting to see Lyle himself. "When Lyle returned to Arizona," Dad continued, "he insisted we come see him every winter. He had a wonderful home with fruit trees and all around, and every day Dad gripped the podium, a hand on each side, his head tilted slightly up, his eyes barely visible. To the casual observer, he could have been having a stroke. Mom looked worried. The word bishop made to get up, but the presiding bishop, a gnarled old gentleman with whom my father had grown up, grabbed his arm. Then Dad was fine. When my brothers teased me, it was Lyle who..." Dad crumpled in on himself. He could have been a heart attack this time, and the bishop actually made it to his feet before Dad, without looking back, froze him in hand with a Jedi hand gesture. Stretching back to his full 6'2" height, no appearance of frailty this time. Dad looked skyward, as one receiving updates from on high. Then, clearly in possession of new programming, he leveled a now fiery gaze upon the congregation, and Shirlene and I knew Uncle Lyle's send-off was about to take a detour. "You know," Dad began, "I hate to see discord and nastiness on the day we gather to honor Lyle's life. Hate it!" He pounded the podium for effect. "Rancor seeps into the hearts not only of the angry, but of everyone around. Seeps into the hearts and the minds of good people, tempting folks to laugh at pain or take the Lord's name in vain, even in a family prayer, and it grows. It grows until soon even the house of the Lord is ripe for this tension. We will not have it." Dad's palm again slapped the podium for emphasis. "Not on the day your father goes to his beloved bride." We will adjourn shortly to the graveside, where I would like you, Lydia, to again play that beautiful song. Collie will represent a wonderful live sketch, and you boys, Dad challenged, eyes blazing, ears red, his finger pointed right at the family section. "There's a little money. The girls get a little more. Those girls took care of your father when you couldn't be bothered. You know it's fair, you know it's right, and now, on this, his final day on earth, you will abide. Clear?" Meek nods responded, and Dad was, "Well, that again." We marched en masse to the top of the cemetery above Meat Creek Wardhouse, laid Uncle Lyle to rest. My sisters and I hung back on the way back down the hill, watching Dad's field funeral requests. It was only after the Relief Society dinner, when everyone was wrapping up, that my cousin's fiance spoke up. "Did your dad just call out a family over money in the middle of their father's funeral?" We didn't even break stride. "Welcome to the family," Shirlene said.
So I'm gonna read a piece I wrote today while I was sitting down there, actually. but it's called Dear Poet's Corner. Needs a little bit of explanation because it's a little bit weird. So this poem is a letter to a site that I write poetry on, and it's dying slowly and it's sad, and so this is my goodbye letter to that site. Quoth the raven, I found solace in those words every day for the past year. PC, you've been my solace, my notebook, my home, and I can't bring myself to hide this in poetic confusion and metaphors. You and everything that you are sinking into the void that holds only trolls and phrases that barely pass as poetry. Your colors are fading no matter how fast a select few of us try to paint them back. God, I'm so sorry I couldn't do more. I poured my heart and soul into you, and yet it wasn't enough. Why couldn't I be enough? I know that's not fair. I know you hold so many beautiful people with beautiful minds. People who spin feelings into such perfect words. People who are slightly, or more so, insane. But all the best people are. This was originally a goodbye letter, but honestly I couldn't make myself do it. Sincerely, a girl who found home in your insanity.
Mine is also a piece that I wrote while I was sitting down today, but I finished it shortly after the second reader, I believe. Yeah, it is very, very rough, but I thought, I should read something this week and look through my phone's notes to see what I could pull something out of, and there was one single sentence, so I thought I could do something with that. Avoid risks. Steer clear of deep water and sharp corners and steep drop-offs. Don't let myself get hurt. Still, I come away bruised, sliced, drowning in the what-ifs. Evade social faux pas to keep from avoiding others. Don't make eye contact. Don't be in the way. Don't tell them anything's wrong. Don't call attention. But still I become an obstacle. Tripped over. Boot scuffed. Orange traffic cones. Yellow caution tape. What good have they done me? I can't keep living trying to cut my losses. If I am going to be in the way, I am damn well going to finish what I am doing while there. If I am going to be an obstacle, I am going to be obvious. If I am going to be hurt, I will go screaming. Thank you.
All right, would anyone else like to read? Just on the fly, anybody having read anything during the
Last 2 months.
Okay, thank you for coming to Helicon West. We'll see you next month.